Good evening. Call the meeting to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I invite you to join us. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Kolpak.
Here.
Pepcorn.
Here.
Preston.
Here.
Strand.
Here.
Mahoney.
Here. Library. A Preparing for Pollinators event for kids and teens is April 29th at the Carlson Library. Samuel Devek, a North Dakota 4-H pollinator habitat ambassador, will teach attendees how to make seed balls, a fun and easy craft that can turn any patch of soil into a beautiful pollinator habitat. Seed balls are mixtures of soil, clay, and seeds that sprout easily and are low maintenance. The National Library Week is April 23rd through April 29th, and this year's theme is There's More to the Story, which illustrates the fact that in addition to books in library collections are available in a variety of formats, libraries offer so much more. Planning. Construction work continues on the River House Apartments located a block north of City Hall. Precast is being placed on the first floor, and mid-May will build the upper floors to begin. The target date for completion is actually fall of 2024. Other. At this time of the year when the snow starts to melt, the garbage starts to show up. A couple of residents emailed me and said Mayor Wallaker used to always ask the residents to please walk with a garbage bag and a pair of gloves and pick up those things that you find in the yards and in the boulevards, clean up the city and make it a beautiful city. So when you go on your walk, think about that, see if you can help us out. Tonight, we're going to see a video for our CommGA team showcasing Day 4 operations of Sandbag Pass. Our support on social media and with the members of the local and regional media has been so important in this and in all our flood fights. So enjoy the video.
We started off with a lofty goal of 200,000 sandbags, and we kind of set up for maybe a 7-day operation. Just didn't really know how things were gonna go. Tuesday came, we made 39,500 bags. Wednesday came and we made 56,000 bags, and it was like, wow, this is going really well. And then we hit 45,000 bags, and now we're on course to hit, I'd say, right around 60,000. And that's gonna put us at our goal, which is amazing in 4 days to make that happen.
I talk about this all the time. This is a very blue-collar community, and we want the product on the floor to reflect this community. And it's really cool to see some guys from some different environments, some different cultures come out here, do something they never thought they would be doing.
I had no idea what sand filling was or anything like that, but I was gonna say bigger than NDSU because it's like the whole community is like one and that's like a big family. You can see everybody working together.
There's so much going on here. I mean, there's like thousands of bags, and North Dakota, we all stress family, community. So it's cool, you see everyone, band together, get together, and, work for something bigger.
So I've been personally impacted by flooding. I lost my home in '09, so this is so important. I'm glad that I can be here to help make it so nobody has to go through it.
We hit our 200,000 goal.
I want to especially thank all the employees for the city of Fargo that helped out and made that a success. It was great to see people out there. Is there a motion to approve the order of agenda withdrawing item 38 on the regular agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the March 20th, 2023 regular meeting and the April 11th, 2023 special meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve consent agenda items 1 through 36?
So moved. Second.
Keep consistent here. Keep it simple for Shelley. Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Preston,
Yeah, aye.
Kolpeck,
Aye.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Strand,
Yes.
Mahoney.
Aye. Resident comments. We have one speaker tonight, Patrick Kelly. Patrick didn't show up. Okay. Item 39, update from Police Department on legislative initiatives concerning street drag racing. Chief Zabowski.
Good evening, Commissioners. Update on legislative effort. As you're aware, we proposed a bill based on Wisconsin law that would require the owner of the fleeing vehicle to provide the information in terms of who was driving when they fled the traffic stop or face a $500 non-criminal fine. That piece of legislation was supported initially, folks from both sides of the aisle. Went through the Senate Transportation Committee unanimously. Went over to the House side, and the House Transportation Committee did not pass it, and ultimately on the floor it did not pass. So we're going to go back and do some more work, probably for the next session, in the hopes that we might be able to maybe do a little more education with our legislators and see if we can get this thing to move through. That was an important tool for us in terms of trying to stem some of the vehicles that flee from our traffic stops, which continue to be many. So far this year, we've had another 57. There was one this afternoon as I came down to a meeting that actually even Bob Nelson witnessed, the cop trying to stop the car. And she just sped down 10th Street, blew a red light, and kept on going. We don't conduct pursuits just for those traffic violations because of the public safety issue. And without some kind of tool to address this, and again, we have the license plates in nearly all of these instances, we're a little bit stymied on that. In terms of some other things relative to legislation and traffic, Senate Bill 2168 is still, I think, being reconciled, but as it went back and forth between both sides, they added the $100 fee for speeding fines in excess of 20 miles an hour, but eliminated the city's ability to double the fines, added the 80 mile an hour on the interstate, and added primary seatbelt violation with driver responsibility. So this bill is still in a committee reconciliation. I might not have the right word on that, but it's about nearing its end, and we'll see if it passes as is, if there's some other changes. They also, in Senate Bill 2169, established a study committee on traffic-related statutes. That might be something that we want to participate in if we can, or our lobbyists on the police, or from the Chiefs of Police Association side, we've asked to be included as a part of that committee as well, so that we could help inform some of those issues. And in Senate Bill 2219, passed both houses. The Senate is looking at one minor change, but it's likely that this will pass, and this bill eliminates the ability to suspend someone's license for failure to pay a fine. So if that bill passes, folks who do not pay traffic fines will not have their license suspended. They'll be able to continue to drive. We will continue to pursue, I guess, the failure to pay through city warrants, time served in jail, but in some instances that might be more expensive than the fine itself because the fines are pretty low. So that's out there and likely will pass. In terms of our enforcement efforts again this summer, we're putting our heads together again to see what we can do with what we have. We'll continue our operations and partnerships with the Highway Patrol and our other law enforcement partners in the region to crack down on dangerous driving. We do have a reckless driving statute that we can look at in some of these instances. That is a Class B misdemeanor. But in terms of the exhibition driving and the racing and things like that, we're unable to increase those fines because they are set by state statute, and they are set in a non-criminal posture, meaning the most that we can charge is $50 for a couple of them and $100 for the other. So it's, again, pretty minimal in terms of the fines for those vehicles that we are able to stop under those violations. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Preston?
So the use of the Highway Patrol helicopters, I believe it was last year, is that planned to use them again? And then secondly, You had mentioned last year a traffic safety group within your department. Have you moved forward on that?
Sure. We will be, the Highway Patrol has a plane that we'll continue to partner with them on. Yeah, that was very successful. In terms of the traffic safety unit, yes, that's still part of our strategic plan. It's part of our budget request, and we need obviously positions to do that. We are continuing to fill our open positions, and we've got our next academy. Well, we have a graduation this Wednesday, and our next class starting on May 15th. So we're getting very close to that goal. But yes, we would like to re-implement the traffic safety unit in the interim. We've got our motorcycles. We've got some folks trained in them, and we will put out likely overtime details to help with some of that traffic over the summer.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Strand?
Thank you. Chief, I'm just curious, this street racing issue isn't unique to Fargo.
No.
It's across the country. You know, I'm aware of one city, Rochester, New York, where I used to live years ago, where their answer was to put these big, huge humps in the road that almost take out the underside of your car. You know, if you hit it at an ordinary speed. That's how desperate they are to slow down their street traffic, street racing. What are our options?
Well, I think we could use some help legislatively in the ability to increase fines. I mean, even for going through a red light, it's $40. I mean, to be honest with you, you go through a lot of red lights before you really, it hurts you financially. Here's a perfect example. I did a ride along the other night in terms of noise. Right out of the gate, truck with a big modified exhaust system, extremely loud. He's got a sticker on his back window that says neighborhood nuisance. So he knows it's loud and he's okay with it. We stopped the truck for the violation. It's a $20 ticket, which he gladly accepted. And as we're looking through the computer, we can see he's been stopped for this violation many times. Problem is we can only issue a $20 ticket. So if you think about the cost that he probably has into the modification, plus the cost of fixing it, he probably could get $20 tickets the rest of his life and never come to that amount of money. So there's just no incentive. We're really, strung on some of these violations and the fines that we just don't have an ability to at least have a judge consider what a fine should be that might change the behavior. So as he drove off, it was loud again, and there's not much we can do there. The racing is a similar situation. I think we all agree it's not a great idea to pursue those violations absent some other criminal acts, because it is extremely dangerous to the public. And our legislative bill that would have given us the ability to go after the owners for those vehicles that are fleeing was a big piece of our strategy for this year, and that just didn't pan out. So we'll have to work with what we have and do the best we can.
Meanwhile, are more cameras going to help us?
I think
they?
Cameras are helpful in terms of identifying drivers and things like that. Sure. I mean, just in general, the cameras that we've had downtown and in other areas have helped us with a lot of investigations. We are looking at some technology to try and enhance those as well. Whether or not we would have that capacity out on the roadway, possibly, but so we're looking at a number of different things, but in terms of what we have available right at this juncture, it's about the same as we had last year, with trying to just do as much enforcement as possible. I guess on a good note, we did have a couple of motorcyclers that were going very fast, and they both stopped for the squad, so I don't know. Great.
And I'll finish with a comment, but if someday it may happen where some child or person, individual or bicycler, pedestrian gets run over, and then they're going to look at us and go, why didn't you do something about this when you know what's happening? And that's what we're going to be facing, is that criticism post to facto, that it was on our shoulders. So we all know it's a problem.
Right.
I don't know what other cities and jurisdictions are to do, and your hands are tied, but we still have the problem.
Right, and you're correct. Other cities have the same issue, and for the same reasons, they're very limited. I was out in Seattle not too long ago, and they've got bands of motorcycles that race through their downtown blowing red lights. They can't chase them. They don't know who they are. It's not good. So again, just continued enforcement, trying to identify these people and try and pursue charges where we can, but it's very difficult without some other tools.
Thank you.
Could I
Mr.
ask one
Preston, one more question?
So just to clarify, you cannot write tickets or levy fines off of a camera, a photo, can you, in the state either?
No, we couldn't issue a ticket based off the camera, you're
Yeah,
correct, but we
yeah.
could use the ticket to identify, or I'm sorry, the camera to possibly identify the driver of a vehicle who fled a stop, and we could pursue that
Okay.
if we had that option.
Very good.
Thank you.
Jeremy Gordon, recommendations for federal highway bill carbon reduction project applications for the years 2024 and 2025.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. You know, I stood in front of you about a month ago, said this is going to be the last time I'm in front of you asking for your concurrence and filling out applications for either the state or MetroCog. But 2 days after that, I got a message from MetroCog saying a fresh round for carbon reduction projects due at the end of April. So with that, I shouldn't take too much time here, but this is another round of federal money. This is how the highway bill was passed a year and a half ago, and it's taken from then until now until the state and feds and locals to figure out how much money we get and then how we can spend it. So good government works slow, and this is one of those outcomes of that. So MetroCog is asking for projects. If you recall, the Second Street pedestrian bridge here, we were going to allocate $850,000 to that project from this pot of money for this calendar year, 2023. So this is for projects moving forward, 2024, 2025. On the application, we're looking for projects that aim to reduce carbon emissions from on-road highway sources. And there's a laundry list. There's probably 50 different project types in the applications. The most pertinent to City of Fargo would be transportation alternatives, which would be our path projects. Anything to do with transit, most likely transit purchases. Street lighting fixture replacements, and electric vehicle charging stations. So, I mean, it is a nice chunk of money. I mean, our path system, you know, historically we usually lived with around 300,000 to 400,000 annually. This is over $1 million, 1.1 million annually. So it's a good pot of money to draw from. So this is from our long range plan, our plan goals, 8 plan goals. So there's 3 projects that we've identified. Well, actually, there's 4. So this is the project for 2023. You guys don't have to really approve anything tonight on this. Just more of an FYI for you. So to replace the money we had for the Second Street pedestrian bridge, we want to use that amount to replace all of our high pressure sodium streetlights to the LED streetlights. So it would be a short fuse. We'll get started here May 1. And we'll have 3 months to get the plans done and all the paperwork completed for the state. So that'll be a little bit over $1 million. It'll be a good project, 1,000 streetlights. This would fall under environmental sustainability and system safety. So just a cool little graphic here. So this is Google Earth. The lines you see in red, hopefully you're not colorblind. But this is the north side of town, north of the interstate. These are either collector streets or arterial streets. You can see 7th Avenue would be the longest one going east and west. And there's some in an industrial park, some up by the Dome. And then here's the south side of town. 25th Street would be the longest one, and then the frontage roads along I-29. So after this project's complete, we'll have all of our arterials and collectors, streetlights changed out to LEDs that aren't decorative fixtures. So we're making headway. So that's for the project for this year. The project moving forward for 2024, we've got 2 of them. The first would be 25th Street, basically down by Davies, about 3/4 of a mile from 64th Avenue headed south. The total construction was $650, and this would fall under walking, biking, and environmental sustainability. This is a long stretch. Sidewalk projects are getting pretty expensive, so certainly drawn from this fund would help us. So the other project for this year would be, or next year, would be along Drain 27, headed to the Deer Creek neighborhood from 52nd Avenue South. That price tag's a little under $1 million, and Again, it would be the walking and biking and environmental sustainability. Great project. It's just pretty spendy because it's a long stretch. So then 2025, one project for 2025 would be the Red River Trail behind the VA, basically from where the path ends now by El Zega Bowl. And it would go up to the Woodcrest Addition where Park Lane, there's a public access at Park Lane. So that's basically 1.3 million, a little bit over $1 million in federal aid. And this again would be walking and biking and environmental sustainability. So this is a long project. It would be a great project. We believe we got some folks at the VA that are very interested in this project. I think with the number of employees they have up there now, and they walk on their breaks and during the day and over the lunch hour, I think it'd be very welcome for the folks that work at the VA as well. So just future projects. These are 2 overpasses over I-29, 28th Avenue, and 47th Avenue down by Microsoft, and then Drain 53 near Davies as we head south. So with that, it's pretty short. And there's a motion. I can answer any questions you may have.
Any questions, Jeremy? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Preston?
Aye.
Colpack?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. 41, recommendations for appointments to the Fargo Dome Authority. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Colpack?
Aye.
Preston?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Recommendations for appointments to Sustainability and Resiliency Committee. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Strand?
Yes.
Colpack?
Aye.
Corn?
Aye.
Preston?
Aye.
Mahoney?
Aye. Recommendation for appointment with the Municipal Airport Authority. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Colpack?
Aye.
Preston?
Aye.
Strand?
No.
Mahoney?
Aye. 44, applications for property tax exemptions for improvements made on buildings. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Preston?
Aye.
Colpack?
Aye.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. Nathan Beerbohm, spring flood update.
Yeah, good afternoon, Commissioners. Here to provide a quick update on what is kind of happening within the river systems here of late. So first is a graph that the National Weather Service has issued here recently for a deterministic forecast for the city. It's not showing a crest quite yet. So what that means is we're still at least a week out from seeing a crest. But they have indicated that the river is probably going to crest somewhere within that 33, 34, 35 foot range. So we're getting close to that point where we should be seeing a crest showing up here in the next few days, which means we'll be most likely cresting 10 to 12 days from now. It's good news that with the levels that they are talking about today, it does not look like there are going to be any emergency measures needed for us for this upcoming spring. Instead, we'll be able to rely on the over, almost 30 miles of permanent levees and flood walls that we've been able to construct over the past 14 years. Of course, we'll continue to monitor the weather forecasts throughout the course of the river rising and then falling eventually to make sure that any precipitation they may fall in the next week or two does not cause any large jump within the river. So the river levels are coming in lower than what was originally anticipated and what we've been discussing over the last couple weeks. Why are they coming in lower? It's really probably a few different factors. First is probably we've been able to soak a little bit more water into the ground than maybe what was originally anticipated by the National Weather Service's modelers, as well as we had pretty ideal melt here in the last week or so. We had a period of time where we were, mid 50s during the day, above freezing during the evening hours. We kind of progressed the snow melt fairly quickly over the middle of last week. And then this past weekend, everything kind of got shut down. and allowed for some flow to get metered through. But probably the biggest factor of why the river levels are coming in lower is that our drainage basin area here outlined in black is really can be broken up in a few different areas. The North Dakota side, Minnesota side, as well as immediately upstream of us. The Minnesota side melted a little bit quicker than everything else, which allowed that water to get into the system and is now currently passing through the Red River and allows then for the eventual water from the Wild Rice area and upstream of Wahpeton to lag a few days behind, which in turns offset the peaks of those two contributing drainage areas. This is different than what we have historically seen. Historically, these peaks from all the tributaries upstream of us usually closely match, but luckily this year we got to see a little bit of offset of those flows. So, like I mentioned, we will be relying on those almost 30 miles of emergency or permanent levees and flood walls that we have in place, as well as all the 85 storm sewer lift stations. Currently, Public Works Department has 29 of those in use today. We anticipate by the end of the week, all of those will be operational, which means any rainfall or snowmelt that's still ongoing will have to be pumped out to the river to make sure that we are not flooding ourselves out from the protected side. In addition to that, the removable flood walls have started to be installed today. I think Public Works did a really good job. I believe Ben indicated they have Oak Grove ones all installed already. The 4th Avenue opening just outside the City Hall, as well as a couple of them down at Main Avenue are already installed, and then they'll continue installing a couple other ones tomorrow. And then as conditions warrant for the areas that are going across roadways, we'll install those at the very last moment we can to make sure we're not impacting traffic longer than we have to. Road closures. Elm Street was closed late last week. We anticipate 12th Avenue to close most likely Wednesday. And then 2nd Street South over by the high-rise area, South Main Avenue, that will close when the river reaches a stage of 30 feet. And 1st Avenue North Bridge will close right around that river stage of 31, 32 feet, which at that point, Moorhead has an underpass underwater, as well as we're starting to approach having waters up against 1st Avenue here that can be seen in the picture on the right-hand side. So next I thought maybe to help illustrate or get a little better understanding of how does a stormwater lift station function. It's something we talk a lot about. We have 85 of them, so it's a very critical component of our infrastructure. So I thought just take a quick second here to step through it. So on the graph here is actually a cross-section view of the lift station that's down at Mickelson Park. Here it shows the flows coming from the protected side or our storm sewer system within our streets and flowing through the lift station. The green line would be the line of protection or a levee or flood wall, and it would keep on flowing out to the river. So this scenario is when it's, say, July, when the river's low enough, the stormwater can just naturally flow out by gravity out to the river. Now, with the period that we're approaching now, where the river is high, we can no longer naturally flow out to the gravity or out to the river through gravity. So what that means is the smaller red circle, that gates, the two gates that we have there, flap gate as well as sluice gate, will now be closed, prevent that floodwaters from backing into our system. In turn, the pump that's circled in large red will now pump that water up and over and into the river on the unprotected side and allow it to enter into the river system. So that just illustrated a little bit of some of the inside components of a stormwater lift station. In addition, after the press conference that was held earlier today, I got a few questions on where are all the removable floodwall locations. So I thought I'd start on the north side and progress the way south, showing where these are located. First two are up at the El Zago Bowl or the golf course area on Elm Street on each side of the bowl there. Then on the right-hand side is the Oak Grove School area. There's 3 wall closures there that have been installed here today. Next, stepping outside the City Hall here, we have 2 of them. The 4th Avenue North one is the far upper end one circled in red, and then the 1st Avenue North one that will be installed possibly later towards the end of this week. And then the last few locations are along 2nd Street South, so the one up by the high rise, right where the 4th Street levee enters or ties into 2nd Street. And then Main Avenue, there's one going across the road at 2nd Street there, as well as 3 for the pedestrian openings at that point. Last item I want to say is, well, yes, we are receiving, pretty good news here that the river is going to crest lower than what we originally anticipated or we are planning for. But I wanted to point out that it still is a top 15 flood that we're going to be dealing with this year. I think that's important to show the success that we've been able to have with building all the levees and flood walls here the past 14 years. If we were back in 2009, this would still require quite a bit of emergency measures to fight against a 33 or 34 foot river level. But of course, with all the exercises we've been doing here the past weeks, preparing for a 38-foot crest, filling those sandbags, preparing for emergency clay levees, it still shows the need for the diversion and the fact that we'll continue to live with a period of more of a risk and uncertainty until that diversion is completed and ready for us in the spring of 2027. So with that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Any questions, the commissioners? Excellent report. Thank you, Nathan, for giving that to us, and you'll keep us updated. Legislative update, Mike Redinger.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I'll be brief this evening. I just have 3 updates to share with you. Tomorrow will be day 67 of the legislative session. The legislature is quickly getting through its business, and we expect there will be a lot more movement this week and the first part of next week on some bills that are still outstanding that we're waiting to hear on. First is House Bill 1273. Our North Dakota League of Cities representatives, as well as Terry Efforts on our behalf, have really been waiting for the Senate vote on House Bill 1273. I checked the floor schedule right before coming up. We still are not on the floor for tomorrow either. So this is really at the discretion of leadership in the Senate as to when this will be presented. We'll certainly keep the commission apprised of that. The other matter that we expect some movement on this week are the various library bills. We're waiting on the final outcome of those bills. You'll recall that the library bills, particularly House Bill 1205, codifies a Supreme Court standard called the Miller test for obscenity, and that will codify that. These bills have been really watered down quite a bit. But it appears, based on some feedback Terry Efforts is receiving, that many of these library bills have support to pass this year. So we do expect that that will occur. And then finally, one other bill of note this week is House Bill 1040. This is the bill that closes the North Dakota Public Employee Retirement System to new enrollees for the defined benefit program and converts new hires to a defined contribution plan. We're watching that bill as well. We do anticipate that that could come up as early as tomorrow, but again, based on the floor schedules that have been published so far this afternoon, early this evening, we're not seeing activity on any of those bills. So I'll leave it at that tonight. We'll continue to provide timely updates to the commission. I'm in touch with Terry Efforts pretty regularly throughout the day, as well as by email over the nights and weekends. So we'll be sure to keep the commission updated as things come in. So thank you.
Mr. Strand, liaison assignment updates. Got anything for us?
Thank you, I do. I'd like to acknowledge Auditor Sprague for his convening the downtown work group. We had a meeting Friday of this last week, and this is where the proof's in the pudding. I think we had 17 people around the table. Almost every department head that relates to in one way or any way with the city, the downtown folks, the BID and the DCP people. And it's so efficient for us to be able to vet and talk through and hear each other. They really needed this from the city, and I think, Steve, you and all the leaders in the department have delivered. But topics, for example, outdoor biffies and loos, versus, outdoor porta-johns, street fair logistics, they went through that noise ordinance RFP that's forthcoming, and aspects of the buskers, performing artists issues, food carts, and related topics. So this is just really valuable for the DCP folks to have us showing our commitment to partner with them on a regular basis.
Thank you. Mr. Kolpak.
Thank you, Commissioner Strand. Thank you, Mayor. So I have one slide today, and I appreciate Director Hall, you submitting this information. This actually was a question that I heard at last week's Sandbag Cast. So A comment, especially now, is what are the impacts of spring runoff in Fargo water treatment plant operations? As you know, it can become quite muddy with snow melt and spring runoff. And if you look at the top right of this slide, you see the difference before and after pre-treatment process through the membrane water treatment plant. So both of the Fargo water treatment plants are capable of successfully improving the visibility of the water via pre-treatment. And pre-treatment, further treatment is needed to meet EPA standards and to successfully soften the water. Also with spring runoff, the river water generally becomes softer, having lower salt concentrations, and softening also requires plant changes and treatment processes downstream of pretreatment in order to achieve the normal finished water hardness target. In the bottom right there, you see the clear water collected on top of the pretreatment process plate settlers in the membrane plant. So appreciate that update. Thank you.
I just want to thank Ben Dow and his team. It was a heck of a winter, and they did a great job. And they're already out there with sweet sweepers and starting to get in the sand, pick up stuff. It'll never be clean quick enough, right, Ben? But your team did a great job, and I saw even some of them over making sandbags. So I really appreciate all the hard work that they've done over the winter. Commissioner Preston.
Yeah, just a update on the Neighborhood Coalition. They met for the first time probably about a week ago now. 13 neighborhoods, actually 14 neighborhoods, 13 people showed up. So it was a great turnout. And street drag racing was one of the issues that was talked about, but the intent is for the group to decide on a chair and a vice chair, and then they're going to organize themselves from here on out. The growth plan consultants were supposed to be coming next week, and I believe they've been delayed because of the flood and everything else going on. So it was the economic analysis that was going to be starting this next week, and hopefully they will get rescheduled soon. So that's all I have.
Commissioner Pepcard.
Just real quick, I did a ride along with the police department on Saturday night from 9 Saturday night till 3 in the morning on Sunday morning. And so it was a very interesting experience. I really enjoyed it. And so thank you to the chief for allowing me to do it. It was great. We obviously have great people working in law enforcement. And so it was, and we had I think we had 6 squad cars. So we were in full force downtown. So it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. I did a walkthrough at the old Broadway with a bulletproof vest on, and so that opened a few eyes. I got a few people chirping at me, but I tried to behave myself because I was representing the city. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.